Okay, go for a take. Take two. Action.
So moving on to part two, this bit's about you. Nice little rhyme there again. I just wanted to ask you, for the audience at home, if you've not watched Coronation Street or not up to date with it, could you give like a brief summary of your character up to date?
Yeah, so I played Joel, who's a solicitor in Coronation Street, and I joined the show about a year ago. For 9 months, he was just seemed like the perfect guy, engaged to like a well-liked character on the show, Dee Dee. But then all the while, off camera, he was grooming and abusing an 18-year-old girl. And now he attacked her, she left, was presumed dead. She's now come back and she's pregnant with his baby. He's just tried to give her drugs to kill the baby.
Coronation Street.
Yeah, but now the baby's survived and it's evidence, and I mean, who knows where it's going to go next. But yeah, that's where we're up to at the moment.
I think there were some Corrie fans outside just then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounded like it.
Oh my God, it's Calum Lill!
Oh, does it? But like, so when you got told that when you first got the role, initially, were you already like sort of told that you were going to be playing a character who's going to be like an antagonist, or was that just like a new idea that they just came up with while you were filming?
No, not at all. For the self-tape, I was just told charming character with a dark underside. And then when it got to screen tests, they said in the email, they were like, because it was to my agent, they were like, please make sure your client is aware this character will be, although he won't be a paedophile, he will be abusing girls that are as young as 17. So I was like, well, that's dark, but also I want a job on Coronation Street. So dealt with it. Not dealt with it. Was like, yeah, great. I was like, oh, okay, I need to make sure I do this right.
Yeah.
But the whole like trying to kill the baby thing, like didn't know about that until it was already like in motion.
Jeez.
And I was like, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable doing this. But then we had some conversations about it and then went ahead and did it. I was very scared about how it was going to be received because people had told me horror stories about like the people that play the baddies, like they now can't go outside because people just think they are the character. So I thought when you add killing a baby into the mix, but people have been like really nice and just like online comments and stuff have been like praising me as an actor and not like giving me abuse as the character. I've had a few of them, but it's been majority like positive.
How did you find that character in you? Because obviously talking to you now, like you're a great guy. There's none of this like evil antagonist about you. So how did you create Joel?
Did you watch others and use them as inspiration, or?
Yeah, I think I did a mix of like real life and fake. So the night before the screen test, I watched American Psycho.
Yeah.
And tried to like
Nice.
emulate a bit of that, a bit of Christian Bale. But the thing that was difficult for me is I did all the prep on being that kind of character. But then for 9 months, I was playing this nice guy that was he was so kind of like beige to not arouse any suspicion that I didn't, the thing that was hard for me is I didn't have anything there was nothing I could do with it. Excuse me. So, you know, there was no, he just wanted to be someone that was there that no one really noticed, which worked storyline, but as an actor trying to do something with it, I found it quite difficult. And because I didn't know all of the stuff he was doing off camera, I found it hard to make concrete choices, and that's also an excuse of me being a lazy actor. I should have put more work in. I think when I watch the work back now with my earlier stuff, it was very kind of, it just wasn't very three-dimensional. I'd not done the work that we all know you're supposed to do, like your whole character's timeline and your improvisations and creating the memories in your head and doing all of that work, because I thought, I can't do much, so I'm going to find out stuff in the future and I don't want to like make up something now. And actually it just meant that for the first 6 months, the quality of acting was a bit like, from myself, was a bit subpar. Like once I started getting the stuff through where I could see what he was doing in the darker side of him, and then I really was like, okay, so he's doing this with his parents, and then I kind of filled in all the gaps. I got as much information as I could, filled in all the gaps, and then I found it a lot easier to settle into a real person then. But you know, I based it on I watched a lot of like Ted Bundy's interview tapes, because he's so like, you watch him and you're like, did you do it?
So calm.
So calm. Yeah. And then he conned me a few times, and I'm watching, I'm going, maybe he's right. Maybe they have got the... And then I'm like, no, you're falling for it again.
Yeah.
And then I watched like the Jimmy Savile documentary on Netflix, and And then it's a few other real life characters and fictional characters, and I just kind of took little bits from each of them. Really, that's what I tried to do anyway.
Oh,
I saw on an interview you said you'd work with some charities as well. Was that or as a way of developing the character more, so it was more embedded in a realistic way? So, you know, when people watch it on TV, they don't go, well, that's not how I've seen it in real life. It felt like it was based upon, you know, real examples, like you say.
Yeah, and I know that it was important for Corrie. They wanted to make sure that they did it truthfully and did it justice for any kind of survivors that had been in a similar situation. So we spoke to the Maggie Oliver Foundation a lot. That came out of when they had like the Rochdale grooming scandal. That came out of that. So we worked with them and heard their stories. Because, and I've said this in interviews before, but I watched a play with a friend of mine a few years ago, and there was an alcoholic mother in the play, and she grew up with a mother who was an alcoholic, and she was so upset and offended when she left, because she was like, that's not what it's like at all. And she felt really offended by the actors' like lack of research and the lack of truth in the character. Yeah. So when I realised how deep like the stuff I was doing was, I was like, the last thing I want is some 17, 18-year-old girl watching this going, that's not what it was like, and feeling like upset by not being, when there could have been a thing that made them feel seen, that made them feel the opposite, you know. Kind of, yeah. So I just felt like a responsibility to make sure that it was as truthful as you can within reason on a show that's before 9 o'clock with no swearing, and seatbelts have to be worn, and there has to be a fruit bowl in every room. You know, so you know. So yeah, they just wanted to make sure it was truthful, really, just to and because I've spoke to some people that were, you know, some women that are older, and they said that they were like, oh, it was really nice to see this because I've been in a similar situation a couple of decades ago, and I felt like I was the only one, and and I was like, oh, Matt, like I would never even thought to have heard that from you. So that was my main thing. I was like, I just don't want anyone thinking what my friend thought when they watched that play.
And I guess it also serves as a warning when you play it more realistic, when these girls or potential victims watch the show, they might see behavior in your character that they then attribute to people in their real life, and then they sort of open their eyes and go, oh, this is a dangerous situation, or something that I could be getting into. I realise that now, and now I can back off and not get into like embroiled in whatever could potentially happen. Yeah, 100%, so it's really important to do it, like you say.
Completely. One thing, when we had the interview with them, they said they'd been in about 5 years previous, because Lucy, who plays Bethany, had a grooming storyline, and after that came out, the producer at Corrie told the story that a woman wrote in saying thank you because she was watching it with her 14-year-old daughter, and she said her daughter was turned to her and started crying and was like, Mum, oh my God, I think this is happening to me. And then turned out like someone was trying to groom her to get her into like, you know, sex trafficking or something like that. And like, had she not watched that episode of Coronation Street with her mum on that day, then who knows what would have happened to her. And then when I thought that, I was like, there's more than playing a villain here. Like I have to do a good job of this.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Wow, cool.
And then how did you take that away, like offset, like doing that work and then going home to your family? How do you switch off?
I use music to get into it and then music to get out of it. That's what I do.
I just roll my eyes because Ben talks about music all the time.
He loves music. So many playlists of different characters.
I'll do that. I'll listen to, when I'm like just reading the scripts and doing the notes, I'll just listen to different playlists and different could be anything, and then that'll spring me onto that. But then usually I'll have a hook of a song and I'll go, oh, that's the one for this scene. So then I'll just listen to that on repeat. Like there's an attack scene that was about 7 minutes long, and it was the first time I'd actually worked with Kate, who played Lauren, because all of our stuff, she had scenes with this mystery boyfriend that she was on the phone to, and I've scenes being this nice guy. But so it was happening for the characters, but as actors we weren't working together on anything. And our first scene was this big attack that took about 9 hours to film, and I just had this one song that was that got me into it, so that really helped. And then I just listened to light-hearted stuff on the way home, and I think in terms of like this, like being the character when you go home, I don't really struggle with that. I'll be like emotionally drained, like you feel like you've had a big cry one day, and then after it, like your eyes are hurting. I think because you're going through so much emotion, like I feel that sometimes. I've only had one time where I've left, because obviously he thinks different to me, so I'll try and, instead of thinking being the character, I just try and think I try and, instead of looking inwards, I try and look outwards and just have his opinions on things. And I was rushing to get home, and I just put my phone in to put Waze on, and because my character playlist was on, that music just came on. It wasn't too loud, and I was like, I'm not stopping to turn it off. I was driving, and I saw, it wasn't a crash and no one was hurt, but there was a bump, like a scrape, where people would have to pull over and exchange car details. And instead of being like empathetic and being like, oh, that's sad, I remember thinking like, idiot. And I was like, whoa, like, and so I pulled over, checked they were okay, turned that music off, put my music on, and I was like, I actually need to make sure that I'm taking the steps to cut like that way of thinking and that character off. Like when we was doing intimacy scenes, like the intimacy coordinator was like, after you finish, you high five, because that kind of noise, just kind of cuts you out of it, and you know it's. So I now make sure there's like a clear cut, like that music. I do not listen to any of them songs when I'm not.
What type of music is it? Is it
anything, like sometimes
like
it's
rock?
just sad song. There's like an acoustic, slow kind of sad cover of, you know, that Prada, that dance song.
Oh yeah, by
There's
Ray.
like,
yeah.
There's like a slow piano acoustic cover of that, and that's what I used for the attack scene.
Right.
And then there's some other. I listened to that Simon and Garfunkel. What is it called? The Hello Darkness, my old friend. Listen to that for a bit of it. Different ones for different scenes, but then if they come on, like, you know, when you Spotify, I can just play different stuff.
Yeah.
I'll skip them songs unless I'm doing work on the scripts, or I'm on set. Yeah. I won't listen to them, and then maybe in a few months or whenever I've stopped playing the character, I'll come back to them. But I just try and do it that way. You know, just like, you know, you'll hear like a song that you might have broken up with someone that you're definitely over 7 years ago, and you hear it and you're like, I'm not upset, but my stomach thinks I'm upset.
Yeah. It's still there bubbling.
So I try and hack that kind of part of my brain to use the songs for scenes. Sometimes it doesn't work.
It's so weird how it works. Like, you can listen to a song and then next thing you know, it's like, that song just fits this scene, and you don't know why, but your gut just knows it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So it's been announced that you're leaving the show at some point. Now you've been playing this dark antagonist, charming sociopath, potentially, however you'd want to describe him. What ideally would be the next kind of role that you'd want to take on?
I don't know, because I would say like it'd be nice to not play a dark character, because the only things I've played since graduating are dark characters. But I think there is also something, you know, like I said before, when I was playing this character who was just doing nothing wrong, I really struggled to find anything. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm better at playing kind of flawed, dark characters. But I mean, a comedy would be great. I'd love to go and do a comedy. Yeah. You know, just anything where there's less like abusing young women would be nice. A nice change, because I've had a bit enough of that from Corey. But no, like, we're actors. Like, we do whatever we get, wherever we're privileged enough to be able to act in. So do whatever, man. But it'd be nice to do something a bit lighter and a bit less, where I have to sit in a corner rocking, listening to music to get into character.
Hello, darkness.
It's got Ray on repeat.
What advice would you give to the younger aspiring actors?
I think that if I could go back to myself, it'd be like, go to the theatre more and watch films more. Definitely go into and it doesn't really matter what you watch, because if you watch something that you don't think is very good, don't think, oh, that wasn't very good, I could do it better. Like, what wasn't good? Why do you think they did it like that? What would you have done better, and how would you have achieved the thing that you would have done better? Does that make sense? And then in terms of like actual things you can put into practice, young actors, National Youth Theatre is really good for that. Every drama school audition I had, they said, are you in the National Youth Theatre? So that's really good. But I think just immerse yourself in it. And I think, you know, there's that, do I need to go to drama school question that people always ask. And I think the answer that I think I've settled on, I think I only thought of this the other day, is you don't have to go to drama school. You just have to be willing to put in the hours that you would have done at drama school. So if you're not going, you know, if you're not going to spend 3 years of 40 hours a week on your craft, then you need to find the time to put in that equivalent amount of work. And I think it's the easy thing. It's easy to get complacent in acting, because it's not like football where you practice your drills and you can see if you haven't done it, because good acting looks like they're not trying. And the mistake you can make is to actually not try, when actually that actors, you know, I think Cillian Murphy started prepping for Oppenheimer 6 months before, and he'd have been prepping hard. He's not doing anything else. He's just focusing on. He'd have read the script 1,000 times. So I think like my advice would be, it took me 6 months with this character to know what I was doing. So just prep and prep and prep. Read the scripts 1,000 times. Know your lines. Know everyone else's lines. If you're lucky enough to have gotten your first job or whatever, like, you can't control if you're the best actor on the set, but you can be the first there. You can be the last to leave. You can know your lines the best. You can be the politest to everyone. You can have worked on just understanding and practicing hitting a mark, you know, stuff like that. You can make yourself easy to work with. You see, you can't be the best. You can't decide whether you're the best actor on set, but you can be, you know, what is it, first up, best dressed kind of thing. You know, and you can be the best prepped. So just work hard, I think.
Great advice.
Yeah. I was going to say, you touched briefly on drama school there. You went to drama school.
Yeah.
So how did you find that experience of actually going to drama school?
I really enjoyed it. I think I needed it. I think I was quite green before I went, and I thought that, you know, I'd done a couple of lines on a TV show. So like, you know, once my audition for Hollywood comes along, I'm just going to get it because, you know, you're the main character in your life. So obviously it's going to happen for me. When I got to drama school, I didn't realize how little I knew. It's all stuff that you can just learn from books, because, you know, The Actor and the Target, How to Stop Acting, Different Every Night, The Actor and the Voice, you know, all these books, you can teach yourself them. You just have to, if you're not doing it at drama school, you just have to put in the time to teach yourself. Yeah. But I was really lucky because I went to Arts Ed, and that's, like we were saying before, that's screen acting from the first day of the first year. Right until the end, 50% theatre to screen, whereas I think some are 6 weeks of it. But I had the best time. If I could had a magic time machine to go and do it again, I absolutely would.
Knowing everything that you know now.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. It'd be great. I had a really good time. So yeah, I recommend trying it, auditioning, even if you don't necessarily want to go. Like, I don't actually think I would have gotten into Arts Ed if I hadn't auditioned for Bristol Old Vic, because I had a recall, and your recall's a whole day. Then they'll workshop your Shakespeare with you. I workshopped my Shakespeare for about 2 hours with their head of Shakespeare, who was about an 80-year-old guy who, if someone paraphrased a line, he wouldn't be looking at the script. He'd go, you just said it's, and it's actually it is there, so go back. He knew every line to every Shakespeare. Wow. I auditioned for them, and they said, you are recalled, but we want you to change your speech from this to this, and then come back with that. And then I workshopped it with them, and then I auditioned for Arts Ed, and then I got in. Oh, wow. So I think, like, that helped. And I think I only got into Arts Ed because I was on the waiting list and someone dropped out last minute. So I was like, I wasn't even supposed to, I was supposed to not get in anywhere that year, and I just happened to get in. But yeah, I had a good time.
Great. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, it's been great to have you on. It's been a pleasure chatting to you and learning from you. Yeah. I look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having me on. I've had a great
no
time.
Worries, man.
Yeah,
thank you for coming on.
Thank you. And
Cheers.
that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Boom.